Well, good evening. This is Wednesday night, and it's exciting to have you joining us. And I trust that tonight's talk is going to be an inspirational talk. And Gustav and I are going to be discussing the content of the talk shortly after it's run. I'd like to encourage you to join this weekly webinar. You can register at mapforlife.com/mapshow-online, and you will receive a weekly reminder just 1 hour before the show, so you can join us. We also will be premiering the edited version of this session on Saturday evening. So if you are a YouTube fan, Saturday evenings you'll be able to see a repeat of this particular recording, and I trust that you'll be able to share your comments and insights. If you're joining us tonight, welcome. Great to have you. Please share your insights in our chat room, and who knows, we might invite you to join us in studio. Tonight's talk is titled The Ask in Receive. The Ask in Receive. And it's a talk that I gave recently to a live audience. I trust that you're going to enjoy this. Please share your thoughts and comments, and Gustav and I will be discussing it in detail. Gustav, of course, is I would like to say somebody who thinks deeply about different aspects. So Gustav, after the talk has aired, you and I will have the opportunity to discuss it. But before we go there, why don't you just quickly introduce yourself this evening to our audience?
Yes, I'm. My background is mechanical and industrial engineering, and I did a master's in business leadership and also doctorate in creative problem solving. And so I assist businesses and people to excel.
Great, Gustav. I'm really excited. Sometimes things seem to appear that they're taking place gradually, but then it happens all of a sudden. And so maybe in 2024, all of a sudden the door will open and you will be a full-time Map for Life, and that'll be really exciting. So let's take a listen to the talk, and I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on what is going to be discussed this evening.
Here's the interesting thing, and you can write these 4 words down. It's the ask in receive. The ask in receive. We've all heard that phrase, ask and you shall receive. Have you heard that? So if we really go and analyze this message, everybody wants to receive, but the receiving is the result of the asking. So if you're not receiving, it means the question that you're asking is inappropriate, or it's the wrong question, or in fact you're not asking at all. So when we see a truth like ask and you shall receive, then the emphasis is on identifying what it is you want to receive, and then asking yourself the question, what question should I ask that will produce that receipt? So the vision that you have, that you want to see realize in your life, needs to be absolutely clear so that you can understand what is the question that's going to produce that vision. If we say, how am I going to do this? Or I can't do this, maybe is a better, if I say I can't do something, or it's not possible, or I have all of these negative beliefs about my circumstance, guess what I'm doing? I'm asking the wrong question. That question is not going to produce the answer I seek. I've got to be clear on the answer, because in the answer lies the ask. In the answer, the question is revealed. And once I understand the answer, then I can begin to ask the appropriate question. And guess what happens? When I start asking the appropriate question, the answer appears. And you will be amazed that immediately you ask the right question, you discover that the answer had already been given before the question was asked. So I think the statement, which sounds a little bit odd, The ask in receive is a phrase that's worthy of remembering. The next one, which ties in with that exact same thinking, is the way that I wrote it was like this. Ooh, there's so many good ones over here. There's so many good ones over here. In fact, I shared it with you last time, so I'm going to have to go back to the talk that I gave you the other day. It was the seek in find. The seek in find. In other words, if you ask and you shall receive, seek and you will find. The find, in other words, that which you perceive to be the treasure, the thing that you want to invest your life in discovering, in that the answer to where you should look lies. You know, when you want to go if you want to go and buy bread, where do you normally shop? Checkers. Okay, there you go. It's to Checkers, and you in Spar and Pick and Pay and Hallmark or whatever you might go. I don't know where people go and shop these days, but you go and you shop and you want to buy bread. Where do you go and look? So where? No, in Checkers. Where is it?
At the bakery.
At the bakery. And where's the bakery?
At the back.
At the back.
Yeah.
On the left or the right? On the left. You see, he knows really. So if he's going shopping for bread, he's not going to walk and start in the front right-hand side and meander through all the aisles trying to sniff out the bread. He's going to go and look in the bakery, in the back left-hand corner, because that's where they have the bread. But he wouldn't know to go and look there unless he knew what he wanted to find. In the same way, for you and I, we've got to be absolutely clear on what is the treasure? What is that thing that we believe is going to release life in this world? What is that one thing that when we find it is going to produce a legacy? And when I say a legacy, I'm talking about a living legacy. I'm not talking about a pigeon pooping spot. Because somebody might decide that your little statue that you have up there doesn't belong there anymore, and they're going to take it away. Okay, I'm talking about a living legacy, something that you begin that continues beyond your life. That's the kind of treasure we all seek. We're seeking to find the flame on which our name is going to be placed. And so the seek is in the find. The seek in the find. Last time I spoke slightly differently. I said, it's only people who find something that get called founders. So if you want to found something, you've got to find it first. In order to find it, you've got to seek it. And where you seek it, you seek in the place where it's found. What does that mean? You've got to go into the environment that houses the thing that you're looking for. And that environment is outside of your comfort zone. It's beyond where you are right now. It means you've got to pass through some barriers. I had a picture the other day of Map for Life. We talked a bit about that this morning. Because I'm talking to people who are going to be that are going to participate and partner with us in the launch in March next year. And the two words that came to me was the words beyond imagination. Because you see, every single person on the planet has the ability to imagine. They do it from birth. But so few go beyond imagination. So few take the step of action. So few take the imagination. In other words, the ability to see the scene that belong beyond what we can see with our physical eye. You know, that imagination, that vision that you see. So few people take the step of action to reveal what they saw so that we can benefit from it. And the visions that you see that are for yourself are not for mankind. It's the visions that you see that are there to benefit mankind are the ones that we need to reveal and take action on. And so what I saw was that people are living in a transparent bubble. You know, like when you walk up to a shopping center and they've got these automatic glass doors, the place looks closed and locked, but as you get close into the proximity of those doors, suddenly they shoot open and you're able to enter. Well, what I imagined was this glass bubble, or let's say it's not even a glass bubble, it's one of those that you blow and you get those little soap bubbles. Imagine being inside one of those soap bubbles. You're kind of floating around. You can see through, but when you look through, it's not that clear. It's kind of, it's disturbed. It's like it's hazy and it's rippled. It's not perfectly clear, but you can see. There's something that looks really exciting outside there. But unfortunately, there's this barrier that I can't get through. Well, this is the picture that I had of Map for Life. Map for Life is the pin that pricks that bubble. Because immediately you speak about what you have seen. You write down what you have seen. You believe it and step in faith. You are able to access that which no one else is able to access. So Map for Life is simply beyond imagination. It's the next step. It's not out of this world in terms of we can't imagine. No, it's what you've seen outside of this world that Map for Life brings into the world, because it bursts that barrier that is lying between you and what you've seen. And then sticking with that same theme of three things. The first one was the ask in receive, the seek in find, and the knock in open. The knock in open. It's maybe ties in with the pinprick. You prick this bubble and it disappears completely. It no longer exists. There's just a little bit of a wet mark on the floor where that soapy water landed after the bubble was popped. The knock in open. In other words, that vision that you see of the future, the door is already open, in the sense that it is already possible. The mere fact that you are able to see it means that it exists. In fact, your imaginative ability is more real than the physical world. What you and I see around us here is the reflection of what people saw before. So it is very real. It's tangible. We are sitting in somebody's imagination. We are drinking someone's imagination. We're sitting at a table that was someone's imagination. We're being recorded because someone had imagination. So if that is the case, then everything that's going to exist is already in place. And by the way, the things that do exist because the resources for their existence preceded their existence. I've been talking for many years saying that in Africa, there's people crying from the south to the north to the east to the west about how some people came here and stole the resources. Have you heard of anybody like that? Yeah, they took our gold, they took our silver, they took our diamonds, they took everything. And I say, listen, wake up. The resources are still here. That's the people. But I've realized the folly in that statement. That's not true. You and I are not resources. We are resourceful. In other words, the resources are within us. As soon as we are treated as a resource, we can only become employable. We can never be deployed. If you see yourself as a resource, you want to go and prostitute yourself to someone else so that they can pay you a monthly salary so that you can just get by. You are not a resource. You are resourceful. In other words, there is seed inside of you. There are ideas inside of you that can literally transform the world. You are full of ideas. You are full of resources. You are full of things that can make change. But as long as you see yourself as a resource, you're going to want to exchange your life for a paycheck. Or you're going to want to exchange your life for a consultancy or a tender or something. I don't know. I want to tell you this morning that the revelation that I had this last week is that you and I are resourceful. And when we recognize that, we can then be deployed and not employed. We can begin to germinate and leave a living legacy so that other people are going to be not only talking about the existence of somebody, they're going to be talking about that which you created. Because you see, you as an individual, me as an individual are not important. What's important is that we deliver what we were sent to deliver. You have come to make a deposit in this world that's going to live on long beyond your life. And I want to encourage you this morning that if you want to see that door open, start knocking on the right door. Talk to the right people. Share your vision with people who are visionaries. Share your vision with people who are possibility thinkers. Share your vision with people who say you can do it. Share it with people who encourage you. Share it with people who motivate you. Because as long as you share it with those people that have been around you all your life, that have kept you where you are right now, they will encourage you to stay at home. Maybe it's time today to change your friends. Maybe it's time to change the people you associate with. Maybe it's time to change the places you hang out. Maybe it's time to change what you read, what you watch, what you listen to. Because in that, germination takes place. And when germination takes place, incredible things happen. In 1978, in grade 7, I had a revelation to map the world. That revelation lay dormant for 21 years until it gave birth to a book, which 9 years later I realized was confirmation of that revelation I had in 1978. What's interesting is exactly 21 years after that map was born, we will be officially launching it. 21 years of dormancy, 21 years of preparation, and I believe we're going to enter into an exciting phase that each one of you has already been part of but will be more actively engaged in. I see that. The question is, do you? Because if you see it, and we both see it, then great things are going to happen. I hope that this message is easy enough for you to remember, but more importantly, that you take it and share it with somebody. The ask in receive, the seek in find, and the knock in open. Because if we do that, the visions that you and I have will materialize.
Well, that was exciting, and certainly, Gustav, I don't know how you feel, but just make sure that your mic is unmuted. I just have a sense that I feel inspired listening to that message this evening, and I don't know what your first take is on what you heard this evening.
Yes, it's what the message tells you is actually confirmed several times in the New Testament, also of the Bible, and also if you read the wisdoms of Solomon, also it's you get basically the same message. So it knocks on your door every time. For multiple times. So it's something that when I listen to that, I just thought of one of the previous sessions you had where you spoke about distraction, and I think that by knocking, and also by seeking and asking, it's also a way of helping you to destroy the distraction. It's like the example of a bread. When you walk to the bread, you walk through all the corridors and shelves of items that tend to distract you. And if you are not focused not to be distracted, you sometimes spend more time reaching what you want to attain than just not allowing yourself to be distracted. So yes, I think it's a valuable message in terms of ask, seek, and knock to destroy distraction also.
Gustav, we're going to talk about these different things. Before we continue, I just want to say to those who are watching or participating as live audience members, you're welcome to use the chat facility, send us a question, maybe share an insight. Maybe you, like me, I was taking notes. You might think that's rather odd that I'm taking notes from my own talk, but very often, you say things in a talk that weren't scripted. They weren't written down. They come out in the moment, and those are very often the most valuable things to write down. And when you're giving a talk, you don't get to write those things down. So thankfully, it was being recorded while I was doing that delivery, and so I made lots of notes this evening. We're going to go through them step by step, Gustav. There was essentially three segments to the talk, and the first one was this idea of the ask is in the receive. And the reason I want to just talk about that for a moment is because I've heard a fellow South African, of course, most people might not know that he was a fellow South African that went to school down the road from where I live. But Elon Musk said something quite interesting a few years ago, and that was that the answer is easy. What's difficult is asking the right question. And I wonder what your take is on that in the context of what we're saying this evening. The ask is in the receive.
Yes, I think if you don't know what you want to receive, you don't know what to ask, so you must have must identify the picture of the end result, the vision, to be able to ask, or else you ask the wrong question.
So what you're saying is we need to actually have clearly visualize the outcome, and if we visualize that outcome, then that's going to direct the questions that we're going to ask. And what I find interesting, why we're talking about this, I think it was January this year. A friend and long-time mapper discovered ChatGPT, I think it was called. And he was fascinated by this tool or this app or whatever it is. And what was interesting is by changing one word in a question, the result was completely different. So you could ask a question like, why is South Africa so successful? And it would give you an answer. And then you could ask the same question, but slightly differently. Why is South Africa such a failure? And it would respond with an answer. So you're asking two opposite things, but it would give you the answer. So I think if AI, which is maybe modeled on some of the ways we think perhaps, is affected by the question, if its output is affected by the question, then perhaps we need to be taught how to ask effective questions. And I was wondering, because of your field of study and the places that you've been operating and working, you have to solve complex problems, perhaps, and maybe you're engaging with interesting combinations of teams. How do you go about structuring the right question? Or what tips can you maybe share that we could talk about, think about, consider when it comes to asking questions?
Yes, with a current project I'm working on is when I work with people, we often I often ask, where do we want to be? That is, I follow the Osborne-Pons process of creative problem solving, which is objective finding is the first step, and then fact finding, then it is problem finding, solution finding, or idea finding, then solution finding, and then action finding. Now, in that process, the most important part is the objective finding, and the objective finding is, where do you want to be? What is the end result? And if you haven't got the end result, haven't identified the end result, you don't know what facts you are looking for, and you don't know what questions you have to answer, have to ask, to think laterally in terms of what to look for, and that is your problem finding. So you don't know what's the problem if you don't know where you want to be.
It's interesting. I was having some thoughts this week about the limitations, perhaps, of our thinking. This was something that I was thinking about, and that is the story of the Tower of Babel, or the Tower of Babel, that you read about very early on in Genesis. And it talks about mankind building this tower that could reach to the heavens. And you may have heard that story. And of course, you know, as a young child, when I thought about the story of the tower, I was limited to Lego blocks. So Lego blocks was my frame of reference. Then my father built a house on a farm, and I was introduced to clay bricks. I then one day went into a big city and saw skyscrapers. And every time I saw something new, my concept of what this tower was expanded or changed. And then I see this starship being built. and suddenly I see a vehicle that looks like a tower that can go into the heavens. And my perspective of the Tower of Babel is again challenged. And so in the context of that, it seems like my past experience and the things that I've exposed to have some kind of limit on my ability to think about the unknown. So what I'm wanting to ask you is, how do I go about thinking about things that don't yet exist and solving problems that maybe will exist in the future, perhaps, or imaginary things? Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Yes, I understand exactly. You know, I can mention a couple of examples, but if you look at asking, looking for, you know, the example that I said with the Osborne-Pons process, when you do fact finding, when you start to ask questions and look at the facts, you actually discover that what you want to receive is not necessarily what you really want to receive, or that what you want to receive is actually more than what you expected. And I'll give you one example. Many years ago, I was asked to put a group together to solve a problem. It was a 150,000 ton phosphoric acid ship that was to enter a harbor in India, and at that stage, as it wanted to enter the harbor, there was an earthquake, and they closed the harbor. So the captain wanted to know from the company, what must he do? Must he dump the load in the ocean? Must he bring it back to South Africa, or must he take it to another client, and where is that client? And we had to solve that, because one of the clients, the nearest client was alternative client, was one that the company just the day before said we are not going to do business with you anymore. So we had 4 hours to solve that. But when we did that, we actually discovered that is not the biggest problem. What we actually received in the end was a solution to that question, but also doing fact finding in the asking the questions. We discovered that the bigger problem is the wind problem in Richards Bay, where ships are delayed going out or coming in to be loaded, and the other one was lightning in an area, in a Palabora area, where there's the perception was that there was no lightning problems, and so we actually received 3 solutions with the original vision that we actually had to solve one challenge, basically. So yes, so in the asking, you open up a path of discovery, and you probably receive more than what you actually thought you are going to receive.
I like what you're kind of saying is that when you start asking questions, you almost create a path in front of you, and this path may lead in it might have little detours, and these detours may lead you to discoveries, and you in your quest to solve one problem, you might discover some other exciting things that you weren't even looking for, but they're there. And so perhaps when we're in that process of asking questions, we almost need to allow ourselves to be led by the path that the questions create.
When you ask somebody, you want a solution for something, and you ask somebody a question, how can I do this, and so on. The person may respond and say, but why don't you look at this? Or have you thought of this? And suddenly you realize that what you had in mind to solve is not really the important thing. There's a better way, and so yes, it's both are important. What you visualize as the end result, and the questions toward that, but what you visualize at the end result is not necessarily the end result that you will receive, and it will always be better than what you perceived as the end result. So the questions are actually taking us to the next level, where you actually put you in a process of seeking and knocking towards improvement.
You know, there's a question that I think that we are emphasizing maybe in Map for Life, and that is the importance of understanding why. Yet in going through school, and even perhaps my years at university, the emphasis often seems to be on how. And so I've found that if I keep asking the question why, you know, if I ask why and I get an answer, then I ask why about that answer, and I get another answer, and I ask why again. Eventually I can get to the real true reason that I'm wanting to engage in something. And understanding the why is often a lot more important than understanding the how, because other people can maybe help you with the how. And as you were saying, is if you're part of a team and you start asking questions, suddenly there's a lot of valuable contribution. But maybe just to wrap up the question side, perhaps there are people listening this evening that are stuck, not because there's an obstacle, but because they're asking the wrong question. And and they're feeling like, I can't move forward because I don't have the money, I don't have the education, I don't have the whatever. I've actually got a book. I'm sure the book must be this thick now with all the excuses that I've heard people use. So what is if I want to really connect with that vision, like you said in the beginning, what is that objective? What is the vision? What is the outcome? What is it that we're wanting to achieve? What one question do you think a person could ask that could help them to get unstuck or get a new perspective, or perhaps even define that vision more clearly?
Yeah, I think that is what's next. What is my next step? In small chunks. And if we look at let's say a desperate person who thinks of let's I'm just trying to think of a practical situation. But if a person is desperate, he hasn't eaten for 2 days, and if he looks at the small step of maybe asking a person, can I help you carry your bag? That is a small step towards opening up a conversation where a person may say, okay, why do you want to do that? And then a person can explain, and then a person may might get into a situation where a person has compassion and offer him a job, which is the next step, or offer him some more food, which is the next step, and that takes him to another step, and so on. So yes, so I don't think anything can be possible by jumping in major steps. It's all small steps, gradual small improvements towards where you want to be. And those small improvements are also broken up in small questions, like the example, can I assist you to carry your bag? Or,
Gustav, I was, as you were talking, I was remembering my childhood days, and our family farm overlooks the ocean, and in fact, the whole of the city of East London, when you go to the city, has got a view of the ocean. The early city fathers had a bylaw that no building could be built to obscure the view of the ocean from the upper end of Oxford Street. And this is not Oxford Street in London, UK. It's Oxford Street in East London, South Africa. Okay, Mick. Yeah. By the way, Mick, I'm going to be bringing you into the studio just now. When I do, you'll have to just go through a little bit of a process to check your mic and so on. But I was just thinking that maybe one of the things that a person could do who is currently stuck is to get themselves to a physical vantage point where they can see the horizon. Maybe even in a tall building, go to the top floor and just get a new perspective, stare at that horizon and ask yourself the question, what lies beyond that horizon? And maybe a question like that could just begin to stimulate the dream again, reignite our imagination again. Because I think a lot of people have kind of accepted life the way it is, and that's, work till death in a sense. And at the end, you just get buried, and there's nothing more to life than that. I think the horizon which is maybe a reflection of imagination. It's about looking beyond what currently exists. Could be a good exercise, and maybe just closing our eyes for a few minutes every day and imagining could also help us to uncover something about that vision. I see Quinton has joined us from Cape Town. Great to have you joining us, Quinton. And he says he knows the one wrong question is asked is the question how. What's interesting about that, Gustav, I mentioned earlier, what I find when I ask the question how, and of course, you know, you mentioned you have an engineering background and industrial engineering, and the question how is almost our bread and butter. You know, when it comes to problem solving, you're constantly seeking answers to that question, and if there's no problem, you want to make a problem, or you become the problem. But for me, when I ask how, I often find that I begin to doubt my own ability. So that's why I would like to encourage people to start why. But before we go on, let's just welcome our man from in the dark. Mick, welcome to our chat this evening. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Hello, Glenn. Hello, Christoph. You know, interesting talk tonight.
Hi, Mick. Yeah, looks like you are in cold England, or
do you know where I am? I'm about 1,200 feet up. I'm just on my way home, and I just pulled over. Now you can't see from here, I don't think, and I don't think I can turn my camera around. But I've got a beautiful view. You know, Glenn was talking about horizons. You know, I've got this amazing view over the city, and it's incredible. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just on my way home.
Just before Gustav and I say anything, I would like to hear. Just from our discussion, or maybe from the talk earlier, was there something that kind of that stood out for you, or even better, a thought that was provoked that maybe took you on a path?
You know, there was a couple of interesting things, certainly in the talk, and again in your conversation. You know, I think I'm always reminded about something that Peter Darrell said. And that was, you know, act with the end in mind, or act with the goal in mind. And I think, you know, Glenn, you're an engineer. You know, sometimes, you know, you got to have that big picture in your mind, and then you reverse engineer it back to get the steps, you know, that maybe you need to take. And just as you were discussing, sometimes those steps, you know, take you in different directions, you know, and you end up with something bigger or greater, or, you know, something different than what you originally planned. But you know, I think most people, they're not following their own vision. They're following somebody else's vision that's been set for them, whether it be in a company, or whether it be, you know, a parent or a teacher or something like this. They're not doing what they want. They're doing what they think they should be doing. And that, you know, releasing somebody from that, you know, look, I think it's easy to convince someone, you know, it's hard to tell someone that they've been fooled. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to break that kind of thought pattern. So convincing somebody, you know, the bigger the lie, the easier it is to get away with it, you know? So look, I don't know what the answers are. Look, I get bogged down in trivia like everybody else, but at the same time, I think it's important that you take action, you know, with the end in mind, not just the end of the day, and not just the end of your life, you know, where you're talking about legacy and creating something that's there after you've gone, which is something obviously mapped for life, and that's what you're doing, Glenn. You know, it's going to be here for everybody to explore and learn from, you know, in decades to come, which is an exciting thing. You know, that's a big picture vision, but not everybody has one. And I think if you can help, but what does it come down to? It comes down to maybe belief. People not believing that they can do it. You know, and look, I suppose, belief is the enemy of knowing. You know, I know that I can do anything that I really want to do. I know that I can do it. Why? Because I've done stuff that I didn't think I could do, which proves that I can actually do stuff. Even when I don't believe I can do it, I did it, you know? So I've got a strong belief. I've got a strong self-image. These are important things for me. I've got a lot of confidence, you know? So, you know, these are important things for me, but not everybody's like me. we're all different. We all have that, our own personal reality. We're all in our own little bubble, and most of us, including me, I'm not, saying that I'm better than anybody else. I'm not saying I'm smarter than anybody else. I'm not. But, we're all reacting to our environment all of the time. We're all being influenced by everything that's going on around us all of the time. And it can be hard to separate yourself from that and just act with your own vision, with your own thing, and stand out. And people don't want to stand out because you're different. You get shot down. When I started my business, we've got a really, really big business. We're very successful. We've got, myself and my wife, we own Ireland's largest in-home pet care company, probably Europe's largest in-home pet care company. When we started this business, we were told no one would use a service like this. More than 500,000 visits later, everybody's talking about us. Everybody's starting business like this because we proved that we could do something, So I think, you were asking a question now about one question that someone could ask themselves if they thought they were stuck or something like this. And I think a question that someone could ask themselves is, do they really want it? Whatever it is that they're going for, do they really want that? And that could be just they're thinking about maybe getting a new promotion, going for a promotion at work, or maybe changing jobs or something like this because they feel stuck where they are. Well, do they really want that move? Do they really want that? Is that what they really want? What is it that you really want? And then take those steps towards that. Build a vision with that. I was talking to a young lady earlier today, and she makes these silk flowers, makes bouquets out of silk flowers and everything else. I was like, how did you get into that? And she said, well, it was just during COVID. I was kind of a little bit bored, and turns out I really enjoyed it, and now she's set up in business for herself. That was a completely unique situation, a thought that she had. She just started something. She really enjoyed it, really loved it. She's got a passion for it. And now she's creating a business out of it. How incredible is that? That is inspiring. That is a real example of someone succeeding in life, in following their path, a path that they have chosen, not one that's been chosen for them. And it was through, I suppose, not necessarily, a trigger event that happened that she was thrown into, that we were all thrown into. And what did she do? She took a responsibility. She took action. She did something for herself. She ignored everybody else, and she did what she wanted. I love that. That's a success story to me. I love the idea of that.
Nick, you're talking, as you were talking, I was reflecting back on a person, one of our members, in fact, one of our very early members in Map for Life. And I would categorize her as an extreme introvert, very, very shy. Eye contact would be avoided constantly. And something happened in her life. I haven't gone to find the answer yet, but early this year, I believe it was, towards the end of 2022, she swam from Cape Town to Robben Island. It's kind of like, maybe it's not quite the same as crossing the English Channel, but it's a pretty big challenge nonetheless. And it was something completely unexpected. The last person on the planet that I would have expected to do something like that. And yet she did it. And I was just wondering if maybe there's a lot of people that perhaps have been labeled in a certain way, and they've accepted that label on themselves, and they go through life a social introvert. They don't have dreams. They believe dreams are for others. And maybe just a conversation like we're having this evening might give somebody hope and say, but hang on, I could do something. Maybe I could, I know how to put flowers together. I know how to do this little thing. Let me just begin to do what I love. And what was interesting is I had this crazy I would say it's a gift today, but back then I didn't. It was a curse. And that was whenever somebody sent me a form to fill in, I had to redesign the form, send it back to them, get their permission to change the form, and only then would I fill in the form. And I don't know why I did it, but I did it every time. People got irritated, frustrated with me. And that was just something I did. And the second thing I did was, and Gustav, you probably know about Engineering News. There was a literal newspaper. This was before the internet. You know, that newspaper we used to get. It was a weekly newspaper called the Engineering News. And I think all engineers were subscribed to it. And it would arrive on my desk every week. And on the back of this newspaper was an interview with a successful person. And the interview would simply be a large photograph of the person, their title and what position they were in. So it was kind of focused on leadership. And then it would have simple questions like, what is your favorite book? What is your favorite TV show? And it listed those things. So that was my first bit. I'd cut that out. And then the next thing I would do is throughout this newspaper were quotes. And I would then go and cut all these quotes out. I don't think I read too many engineering articles. But those quotes that I cut out, they're now these books. So it was something simple. Map for Life is the result of the forms. Just kind of put the forms together and create a book out of it. So I like this idea of taking something that you enjoy doing and just doing it. One of the most interesting things is that very often people who have a gift cannot see how they can convert that gift into a business that produces money. And as a result, their gift always remains a hobby. It never gets converted into something meaningful.
Glenn, can I tell you a quick story? So we were, Gustav for me, when Gustav was talking there, he was talking about belief, right? You've got to have this inner belief that you can achieve what it is that you're setting out to do. And you've got to convince other people as well that your belief is so strong that it will drag them along with you, or that you'll drag them along with you, and I'll just tell a quick story about, when we started our business. And of course we didn't, we had no customers, we just had a vision, an idea of what we wanted to build. And we got started. And after about a year, we'd turned over some money. We picked up about 4 new customers. We'd started to prove that the model that we were creating worked. And I went to the bank, right? I went to the bank and I said, look, can you lend me 60 grand? And the guy in the bank, this is in the middle of a recession. It's 2009, end of 2009, beginning of 2010. And the guy in the bank, Christy Kennedy, his name was, right? He looked at me and he just laughed and said, Mick, we can't give you any money. It's a recession. And I said, well, look, is it your decision? He says, no, it's not my decision, Mick. He says, we have to fill it out, send it off to the underwriters. I said, well, look, just fill it out and just send it off to the underwriters. He says, Mick, I'm not doing it. I said, do it. You've got nothing to lose. It's just filling out paperwork. So he sent it in. They came back. He rang me up. He said, Mick, no, we're not going to give you any money. Look, I said, look, knock off 20 grand and ask for 40 grand. And he said, Mick, they're not going to give you any money. He says, you need to stop coming in here. We're in a recession. Just don't, you're not getting anything. I said, look, just fill out the paperwork and ask for 40 grand. So he fills out the paperwork and he sends it in, and they come back and they say no. And he rings me and says, Mike, he says, no. I said, look, Christy, I'm doing this, whether you help me or not. If I have to go somewhere and get this money, I'm going to get this money. I said, can I go in and see them? He said, Mike, we can barely get in and see them. He said, we're in a recession. You need to stop asking for money. I said, Christy, will they lend me €2? And he just laughed at me. I said, I'm serious. Will they lend me €2? He said, yeah, they'll lend you €2. I said, well, get back in there and keep going up until they say stop. He says, Mick, are you serious? I said, I am absolutely serious. I said, you need to convince them that I'm going to do this. He called me back an hour later. He said, Mick, they'll give you 12 grand. I said, I'll take it. I said, we took that 12 grand and we grew our business over the next year by more than 500%, just on the strength of being determined and committed, not accepting no as an answer from other people. You have to stick to what it is, stick to your goal. You have to be focused. You have to be determined. You have to be gutsy, and when everybody around you is saying, no, you can't do this, you have to be committed. And
I think that you are absolutely right. It's the passion, the commitment. When other people see the conviction in your eyes and they feel your enthusiasm, they will follow what you're doing and support you. So you've hit the nail on the head there. I think everybody needs to be absolutely committed. If you want other people to commit to your vision, you better be committed. And Petrus is one of those people. He's sitting in a lovely, warm Romania this evening, and the reason he's there is because he's committed to his vision. So, Petrus, I'm not sure how much of our session you heard this evening, but perhaps you have some thoughts to share. We're going to have to keep it brief because our time is already past, but I'd love to hear something from your side.
Thanks, Glenn. I trust you can hear me clearly. And I just entered the conversation 5 minutes past 7. So it's currently -5 outside. So it's a brisk evening. We are not dying. I'm luckily, without long sleeves or a big jacket in my flat because it's double insulated. But I think what your guest and what you have been sharing is so important to start with the end in mind. I mean, when I and Glenn, you were part and parcel, of this whole process, that when I had my focus on Romania, and it's a long story how I got here, the main focus of my sharing now is to say that I had a corporate job for 11 years. I realized 2 years ago, I am not going to be a resource anymore. I want to be resourceful. That led me to making a decision. How do I see my end game in the next 15 years in my life before I'm 70? Because the scriptures I follow says that 70 is a good age. And I said, what am I going to do with the next 15 years of my life? And I've decided to commit the next 15 years of my life to discipleship, to actually facilitate an environment in which men can change their allegiance to God. Full stop. I'm currently in a nation where there is 9 million men. We've reached with the process I'm involved now, called Fourth Musketeer, we've reached now more than 900 of the 9 million. So we have a bit, to go. But I'm very clear and focused on how to do it. And how do you how do you take these steps? I think you guys have pointed it out, one step at a time.
Petrus, you're just highlighting the importance of having clarity of vision, and I love the size of the opportunity that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's great, and it's just so nice to this evening for us to be spread around the world, to hear different accents, and so I trust that this evening is just going to be another step in that journey. And so before we end tonight's session, maybe just a 1-minute final thought from each of you. Gustav?
Yeah, it's Petrus just put me on the thinking of leverage, the multiplication factor that Mick also mentioned, with his business, that he didn't realize what the leverage of a multiplication factor is. And that is something that I'm just thinking of that, if you look at the topics, ask and receive, seek and find, and knock in open, it basically draws down to opening up the multiplication factor. And I think also, if you read the book of a million miracles of what happened to the church in China, what is happening there, it's that multiplication factor where they also said, tonight we start with were 5 people in the house with a home church. Next week it's 10. Week after that it's 100. A week after that we haven't got place for the people. It's more than 1,000, and they've only have to share. They share only one Bible, which they tear apart. And if you have a page, you read it and you pass it on to the next one, and then you can get the other page. And that was a plea to print more Bibles and make more Bibles available. That is typical a multiplication factor, which also happens in business. I think if we follow what we covered today in this topic, the 3 topics today. Thanks.
Thank you, Gustav. And it kind of touches a little bit on Mick shared with us some months ago, maybe even a year ago or so, about the having a different perspective. Although he talks about a pet shop, he's making pet owners feel like the best pet owners in the world, or something like that. Mick, you have a byline or something that you are focused on and that you communicate with your staff. Maybe just one last thought from your side that can just summarize what we've been through talking about this evening.
Well, I suppose one last thought. I always think about when it comes to helping other people, I always think about what Heather says, which is to shine in your service to others. Regardless of what that interaction is, you have to be you've got to put, you've got to be the best you that you can be, all of the time. And I fail at that. I'll be honest with you. I fail at, especially with my wife, right? Because my wife would often say to me, why are you so much nicer to the people that work in our organization? We've got close to 400 people working for us. She's like, why are you always so nice to these people? I said, because I want something from them. I don't want anything from you. I've got you, right? So I don't know. I need to figure some stuff out for myself. I'm not perfect, So, but shining in your service to others, not just the people that work that work with you or in your organizations or whatever it is, but those people that you can really kind of influence, make a difference for, make them feel better about something that makes them feel bad in their life. In my company, it's with their pets. We have, it's really about helping that person feel like the best pet owner in the world. Who doesn't want to feel like that? When people often love their pets more than they love other human beings. So, we've got to, have compassion towards how they feel. We've got to be non-judgmental towards the way that people feel about certain things or situations, and just try and help them. One of the places where I really need help is with empathy. I struggle with empathy. It's maybe because I don't understand it, but I need to, there's things that I need to work on in myself. One is to be nicer to my wife, right? And to be more empathic. There's a couple of things I can do right away. So look, I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody does. We're always learning. It's a journey. But just 1% better. You were talking about multiplication, 1% better every day. If you were 1% better every day, I don't think after 365 days, you're 365% better. I think there is a leverage in that. You're probably going to be maybe 30,000 times better, after a year if you're just 1% better every day. So that's great advice, Gustav. I love that. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to remember that. And then when I'm on the show again, I'm going to say something that Gustav said. That's it. That leverage thing. I've got it. I love it. I'm learning.
So we're gonna have leverage. We're gonna shine where we're at. Petrus,
my quote or my thoughts I would like to share is: never allow the crows to bother you. I am an eagle. That is my spirit animal I associate with. And stories are told of how eagles are sometimes attacked by crows, and all the eagle does is it keeps on soaring higher and higher. It does not bother with the crows trying to actually distract it. And I have found it in this mission. It's now my 3rd month in Romania. I had a lot of doomsday prophets. I had a lot of people telling me how wrong it is to leave South Africa, how disobedient I am to God. I can list all the possibilities of why I should not do this. But if I now see the results in Romania of spending time with just a couple of men and the impact it has made in their lives, that is my quote I would like to stick with. Do not allow the crows to distract you.
I love that. And don't we all face with those? I want to share a little secret with you guys this evening. And that is that the last thing that I felt like doing tonight was holding a map talk. And you know, often we find ourselves in a place where we just don't feel like doing what we need to be doing. And then when you do it, you feel so great afterwards. You feel so great that you did it. And that for me is just a reminder that when you wake up in the morning, you might not feel like getting started, but just get started. When you stick your foot in the water and it feels cold, you might not feel like swimming, but just jump in. Because when you do, magic happens. And I think tonight is a testament to that. So thank you so much to each of you. Also to Quentin, who's been sharing comments on there. We'll download the chat as well. Thank you so much for being part of this evening's discussion. I've certainly learned something. Let's make a habit of it and have a wonderful mapped week ahead. Good night.